40-inch vertical jump chart. This is giving you a baseline of measurables that I have never seen not equal 40-inch vertical. So let's start right here. I've actually coached many athletes that just by getting a really strong, beautiful, deep squat, they've done a 40-inch vertical with no elasticity training and no technique. Though, to get this, you're gonna have to have some degree of mobility. And again, just because you can do a 40-inch vertical doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy, doesn't necessarily mean you can maintain that 40-inch vertical if you get injured. So when it comes to strength, the guys I've seen get 40-inch verticals off strength, they do it with great mobility and they do it with great balance. So I see the guys who get really good split squats to go with their squat are much more likely to have that 40-inch vertical. For me personally, really around the 1.5 times body weight mark with front splits and then starting to work into some of this stuff got me to about 40 inches, but I know to really hit my potential, I'm gonna have to bring up that area. My mobility is solid, so I can hit the positions I need for my strength training, but my elasticity through the Achilles tendon is weak, and I'm nowhere near 10,000 jumps. Meanwhile, Connor got over a 40-inch vertical off 10,000 jumps with intent, and he happens to have, pretty good strength. Naturally, he's not an overly tight guy, so maybe if he was much weaker, maybe he would have had to do some strength training. Everyone's different. Everyone's going to be somewhere different on the scale. I've also trained guys who are extremely elastic, who have done no strength training, have, below average mobility, and really haven't put in much jumps and have over a 40-inch vertical. But again, I remember one guy in particular, over 40-inch vertical, just off elasticity, had never done strength training. He also, first time ever on a Nordic, made it look like the easiest thing ever. So just because strength at 2 times body weight is a great predictor, well, that doesn't even address knee flexion of the Nordic. So again, it gets into balance here. These are the factors that could stop any of these from working, but these give you the simplest overview. If you can do a front splits, you can get into your quads and hamstrings enough. But again, with balance, you could be able to do a front split, be super tight in your groin and your piriformis, and not move well laterally in a game, and maybe even get injuries which prevent you from achieving your potential. So anything in the pain area is going to stop any of this. For Connor, the 10,000 jumps started to hit a limit because of pain recovery, which if he would have just balanced his sides of jumps, probably wouldn't have happened as soon. Now he's putting in strength through balance, going even higher. I've also trained some guys who hit 2 times body weight squat. They wonder why they don't have a 40-inch vertical. They have too much body fat, and they're lying to themselves about how much body fat they have. They also have really tight posterior chains. So the guys that I've seen hit 2 times body weight squat, still be nowhere near 40-inch vertical, very tight posterior chain, and often not good body composition. So Jeff is actually, if you were to measure with the running start, is definitely upwards of 40-inch vertical. We haven't done enough testing. I need to get a new Vertex so we can keep testing. And just through, top-notch mobility, and then just getting really into strength training, like more and more and more in the last couple of years, he's hitting upwards of 40-inch vertical. And you could see, because of this basis, it only took him about 6 weeks. Actually, I think within 2 weeks of going once a week to the basketball court with us, he was dunking, and within about 6 weeks was dunking all 4 plants. So that balance for me took me, once I was dunking, it took me more like 6 years to do all 4 plants because of how imbalanced I was from my jumps. So these are baselines that I have seen guys off any one of these factors alone with 40-inch verticals, but if you put them all together, now that's the only way you're going to know for sure what your true potential is. No matter how strong you are, you have more in the tank if you're not mobile, because you can't actually dig into your muscle fibers enough, even with both those, unless you actually were building your elasticity to super good levels. And this is a little bit relative to height, but you'll see in our 6 levels of progression here that we're going to be coaching your form through this, and maybe for a 6'6" guy, maybe we'd have to extend that out a little bit. But the point is that, unless you're addressing your tendons, this strength and mobility helps your tendons a lot, but it doesn't actually stress them to the fullest degree. It's not as much force into the tendons as real elasticity training. So you could actually have great strength mobility and still have a lot of room in the tank, even if you just maintained those by working on elasticity, and for sure then by putting in the technique. And what that means really is going into your jumps with full force. So for me, if I'm just working on dribbling in with a basketball and dunking and working on my different hand positions that allow me to dunk without a defender getting the ball, I can make good progress as a basketball player, but actually not necessarily improve my vertical jump because I'm not putting enough force into it. So I realized that when I was really hitting my stride with my vertical going up, it's when I had access to my vertec on the basketball court. So I wouldn't just be working on, the art of dunking. I would actually be doing reps with full intent, just trying to jump as high as I could. So that's a missing link. I realized that Connor throwing himself a self alley-oop, that now he doesn't have the ball in his hands and can approach the jump. Go ahead and look at these top pro dunkers. They're not dribbling in like basketball players and limiting their arm swing and how much force they can put in. So when we're talking about this 10,000 jumps, we're talking about being able to express your full intent, which now has that adaptation effect. So this is your current vertical jump chart that I have seen get you to 40-inch verticals, that I've seen no outliers. And the cool thing is all of these are so trainable. None of these rely on your genetics. For example, with the 2 times bodyweight squat, anyone can achieve that if they dedicate towards that. Now a 2 times bodyweight front squat, I've seen get guys even higher, but everyone is gonna have different strength genetics. For one guy, it may take 4 years to achieve a 2 times bodyweight front squat, whereas for another guy, he may hit that in 6 months. And same for mobility. Not everyone's gonna have, some guys it may take much longer, but getting to a front splits, we know anyone can get to a 2 times bodyweight squat. Anyone can get to a front splits. Can you go even beyond a front splits? Someone like me probably could at the level I'm at, but that's something that we've seen anyone can achieve. And then same with this, could you get even more elastic than this? For sure you could, but again, this is a level that we've seen that anyone can achieve. And then same with the 10,000 jumps. So 10,000, don't let that scare you too much. That's 25 jumps twice a week for 4 years. That's not that long considering most people spend a decade or more of ups and downs of vertical jump. Connor, 25 jumps twice a week for 4 years. You've probably done double that.
Probably way more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Connor's probably around the 30,000 mark. Whereas for me with full intent, because when you're like the least athletic kid on the team, and then you're kind of discouraged from even jumping because it's embarrassing. I mean, the number of full intent jumps I've done in my life, not many. And then not knowing the technique, I'm mostly dribbling in and pretty much doing just using my strength and mobility to just express like a vertical jump. So in terms of full intent jumps, I'm probably more in like the 2,000 or less range. So again, Connor's probably around 30,000. Any of these factors, could be taken farther. But say you're already 35 years old right now. Well, maybe 10,000 jumps is not realistic at this point. You could do a much lower level and still get results. But you also might be the guy, you might already have a 2 times bodyweight squat. So identify it for yourself. Realize that these factors could go more, but these are, even at 35 to 39, it wouldn't be impossible to make an amazing transformation. But these are all your factors, and then each program and having us mentor you can help. For example, Derek got his out of the strength mobility side, so from about 38 to 42, I think he's made like a 4 to 6 inch vertical change, really off the strength mobility side, because a lifetime as a basketball player, this was much higher. So that's the last thing I'll leave you with here, is realize that your weakest link on this is probably where you have the most vertical gain. If Jeff, for example, just maintained this and did elasticity and technique, don't you think he'd be like well over 40 inches if he just did 10,000, for over the next 4 years, if he just went with you twice a week and jumped with you?
He'd be insane.
Exactly. So now, whatever you've done, not necessarily even done the least stuff, because what you're starting out genetically is a factor, but whatever your weaker link is probably where you have the most room to improve. So let's go change that, let's improve it, and we're gonna coach you through every single one of these areas.